Hey there, Jonathan Kelly again. In this video, I'm just gonna give a quick overview of my three main guitars that I use currently. There's a fourth one. It's an old Danelectro, which was my first guitar, but I no longer use that one. I think I'm probably gonna give it away to either my brother or maybe my sister's kid someday. But yeah, these are the three guitars I use. The Ibanez on the far left and the Kiesel in the middle are both tuned to E, and the ESP LTD at the far right is tuned to B. The reason being is that the LTD is currently being used in the death metal band that I'm in, thus warranting the lower tuning. Like I said earlier, these are three very different instruments in terms of the hardware, the contour of the necks, the pickups, everything. But I guess I'll just go over the different pickups that are in these guitars first. So the Ibanez stock had just Ibanez factory pickups, which were quite subpar in my opinion. So I replaced the bridge and the neck pickups with Seymour Duncan's, the bridge being a Duncan Distortion, the neck being a Jazz neck, and the pickup in the center is actually a lace sensor. A funny story about that lace sensor, I initially had a Seymour Duncan hot stack installed, but the hot stack was too tall for me to adjust to lower it, thus warranting the lace sensor, which is a shorter pickup, so I could adjust it downwards. The Kiesel in the middle has stock Kiesel pickups. I think the bridge is called an M12 SD. It's a 12 pole piece version of the old classic M22 SD. The pickup in the neck is either a lithium or beryllium. I think it's called a beryllium. And the pickup in the middle, I forgot the name of. Now moving on to the LTD, it just has two EMG 81s in both the bridge and the neck. Now, a word on the bridges. So, as you can see, they're all equipped with double locking tremolos that are recessed. The reason being is that whenever I play leads, I use quite a lot of dive bombing and warbling and various effects using the tremolo, and I find that this is an indispensable part of my playing. So every main guitar that I get has to have a double locking tremolo. The Ibanez has an Ibanez Edge. The Kiesel has an original Floyd Rose, and the LTD has a Floyd Rose 1000. And honestly, the two Floyd Roses in these two guitars are very similar in quality. You can tell that they were made in different factories by looking at various parts like the fine tuners. But really, the Korean-made Floyd Rose 1000 is just as good as the German-made OFR in my opinion. And moving on to other aspects of the guitars. Now, there's aspects to these guitars concerning the necks and the frets that I like in each one. And currently, there's this weird thing going on with the Ibanez and the Kiesel where certain qualities of each instrument I like better than the other, but it's all mix match, so I don't like one wholly over the other, and I keep switching between the two, and I can't decide which one I like more. But most of those features that I debate over have to do with the necks. Now, one thing to note is that both the LTD and the Ibanez are 25.5-inch scale length. I actually like short scale lengths, I always have. I started out on a Danelectro, which was a very short scale length. And one of my favorite playing experiences ever was playing on a Gibson SG, which has a 24 and 3/4 scale length. Overall, between all three instruments, I prefer the scale length of the Kiesel above the other two. though if I ever get another guitar in E, I'm probably going to try to get something that has a Gibson scale length of 24 3/4. But moving on. Now, the frets, overall, my favorite in terms of the frets is the Kiesel. The Ibanez has the widest frets, but they're also not that tall compared to the Kiesel. The Kiesel has thinner but taller frets, and I find that I prefer that a lot more. Not sure why, I just prefer the feel of very tall frets that are not quite that wide. The LTD, their frets are about the same width as the Kiesel, but they're a bit shorter. And also, both the Ibanez and the LTD have, I think it's called nickel silver frets, whereas the Kiesel has stainless steel frets. And I really like the feel of the stainless steel over the nickel silver. Now, concerning the back of the necks, I would say that I prefer a C-shaped contour, but I like it really thin. The Ibanez by far has the thinnest neck, but it's a flat contour, which I personally don't like. I like to have my thumb sort of gradually roll over to the edge when doing certain licks, which is why in terms of the contour shape, I prefer the Kiesel the most, because it has an actual C-shaped contour. The LTD has a U-shaped contour, so it's sort of in between flat and C-shape, sort of. Now, as concerns like the neck material and the fretboard material, I prefer painted gloss necks. Always have. Raw wood necks like this Ibanez, I don't like the feel of very much. I much prefer painted gloss necks. I just like the slickness and the smoothness of painted gloss necks. Now, fretboard material, ebony, is my favorite. Always has been. Again, the raw maple is alright, but it's definitely not my favorite. And the Kiesel and the LTD both have ebony fretboards. But I find that a lot of instruments I've been playing over the years, most of them, when it's ebony, it's not quite as glossy as it could be. One of the glossiest fretboards I've ever touched was on an old, not an old, but like a early to mid 2000s BC Rich, and the ebony fretboard on that thing was slick. I really loved it. But the two ebony fretboards on these two guitars are moderately slick. It's a little on the more matte side, but there's still a little slickness to them. Though I prefer ebony fretboards to be as slick as the paint finish on these guitars. But yeah, there's just a little about each guitar that I prefer over the other. Like, each one has points to its own that lends it to being more favored in certain aspects. But if I could, like, pick the certain aspects that I prefer the most, that'd be great. I would choose a Gibson scale, ebony fretboard, painted gloss neck. Oh yeah, I prefer the dimensions of an actual Floyd Rose over an Edge. I don't know, like the feel when you're palm muting, and also maybe like the width of the string spacing on the actual Floyd Roses, I actually prefer far over the Ibanez Edge. But yeah, oh yeah, and I forgot, nut width. Now, the Ibanez and the Kiesel have identical nut widths. Well, not identical, but pretty close. The LTD, and this is what I like about the LTD over the other two, is that the LTD has a fairly thin nut. I think it has an R2 nut in Floyd Rose speak, so it's a little thinner, actually considerably thinner than the nuts on the Ibanez and the Kiesel. But moving on to a guitar that I would find ideal is, Floyd Rose original ebony fretboard, Gibson scale length, painted gloss neck. Another thing that I often think about is how much I use the neck pickup, because if you didn't know, bridge pickups have more response in the harmonics, especially natural harmonics, whenever you're doing whammy bar tricks. Like, there's actually certain frets that let out natural harmonics on the bridge pickup that actually have little to no response when using a neck pickup. A lot of people don't know that. So I don't really find myself using the neck pickup that much. I mean, it sounds nice for certain runs and maybe sweep picking, but I just find that I mostly just use the bridge pickup, and I never use the middle pickup in the Ibanez and the Kiesel. One reason being is that the single coil in the middle position of both guitars are a lot lower output than the bridge and neck, so it's really alarming to use it after being on the neck or bridge pickup. But I would say that for the future of my guitar purchases, that I really like to keep it simple. I don't want to amass too large of a collection. So I think it would be ideal for me to have just 2 of a tuning, so maybe 2 in E, 2 in B. So I'm thinking I'm probably going to get another guitar to have in B just as an extra. And I'm going to keep the Ibanez and the Kiesel for now, but as I said, I wish I had a guitar that had more of the qualities I was looking for. So maybe in the far future I'll probably get a guitar that has more of the specs that I'm looking for, and maybe I'll end up parting with either the Ibanez or the Kiesel. But yeah, oh yeah, there's one last thing. If you notice, the horns on the Kiesel are a bit shorter. Well, it doesn't look like that from the perspective of this camera, but they're actually shorter than either the LTD or the Ibanez. And also, the portion of the body that's underneath or below the tremolo is actually longer on the Kiesel than the Ibanez or the LTD. What this does is that when you're in playing position with a strap, the guitar's bridge is closer towards the center of your body, so palm mutes feel a lot different on the Kiesel. Now that's one thing that is a bit alarming when switching from one to the other. Now this proportion of horn length to bottom of body length, I prefer the LTD over both. The LTD is kind of like a perfect medium between that whole ratio concerning the Ibanez and the Kiesel. But as far as future guitar purchases, yeah, I'm gonna buy another for B, think about a replacement for one of these two. I was thinking, guitars that have a Gibson scale, so I was thinking either a comparison of some sort, or maybe a Kramer Night Swan. Both options are very expensive, so I hope maybe on the used market I could find something out in the wild that's more affordable. But yeah, that's about it for this video. Thanks for watching.